They want you to believe a fantasy. A well-crafted narrative is spreading across the internet like wildfire, claiming Caitlin Clark is on the verge of signing a massive deal in Europe, that she's finally had enough and is abandoning the WNBA. It's a compelling story, packed with drama and a sense of righteous escape. It's also a carefully constructed lie. This narrative is a diversion, a piece of strategic misdirection designed to pull your focus away from the uncomfortable truth. They are banking on you chasing a ghost across the ocean so you don't have to look too closely at the crime scene left behind. The real story isn't a triumphant escape. It's a quiet tragedy. Caitlin Clark isn't negotiating in Europe. She's been sidelined since July 15, 2025, and her season is officially over. Her historic, league-altering rookie year wasn't ended by a choice, but by a devastating groin injury. This isn't the story of a player walking away. This is the story of a league that betrayed its most valuable asset and allowed her to break. This is the dark, unspoken truth concealed beneath the glossy surface of the Caitlin Clark effect. It was never just a feel-good story of a rising star. It was a countdown to a sacrifice. The story they don't want you to know is how the WNBA meticulously cashed in on its golden goose, and then, when the profits were secured, they stood by and watched as she was torn apart. To truly grasp the magnitude of this betrayal, you must first understand the miracle the WNBA was gifted. The Caitlin Clark effect was not a marketing slogan. It was a statistical revolution that single-handedly resurrected a league starving for mainstream relevance. Before her arrival, the league was stable, but it wasn't a cultural force. After her arrival, it became one overnight. The 2024 WNBA draft, with Clark as its centerpiece, didn't just see a slight bump in viewership. It exploded, drawing in 2.45 million viewers, a staggering 374% increase from the previous year. Her presence on the court nearly tripled the league's average viewership, sending ratings to an unprecedented 1.32 million. In May alone, the WNBA recorded its highest attendance in 26 years, with 400,000 fans pouring into arenas, many for the first time. It was a tidal wave of cash, attention, and cultural capital, and the league rode that wave for every single dollar it was worth.
Viewership, which is up 400% to 40%. Between ticket sales, which is up 93% to 16%. Between regular game viewership, which is up 180% to 20%. What Caitlin Clark has done is grown the WNBA exponentially. She did in 5 weeks what would have taken 5 years. And as it pertains to draft viewership, she did in 5.
5 years of growth compressed into 5 weeks. The WNBA hadn't just found a star. They'd found a phenomenon, their own version of Michael Jordan. They had their golden goose, laying golden eggs every time she stepped on the court. But while the league's front office was busy counting its newfound riches, a far darker narrative was unfolding in plain sight. While the media celebrated the soaring numbers, they conveniently ignored the brutal on-court reality. A dismissive narrative was spun by critics that Clark B., the league's savior, was somehow not equipped to handle the professional game.
She will do her best. I know she's talented, but she's not strong enough, and she doesn't have enough experience right now to compete.
Not strong enough. That was the excuse. But this was never about strength or experience. It was about a concerted, targeted campaign of physical aggression. The numbers are the silent witness, and they scream the truth. In her tragically shortened season, Caitlin Clark led the entire WNBA in flagrant fouls drawn, nearly double any other player in the league. Let that sink in. A staggering 17% of all flagrant fouls called across the entire league were committed against this one rookie. That isn't a statistical anomaly, it's a mathematical confession. It proves she was being subjected to a level of violence no one else faced. And while the critics questioned her readiness, she was still excelling.
Making a basketball argument. You were making a basketball argument.
We're not saying we were making a basketball argument.
Andrea, I'm not going to let you do that.
Go ahead,
Andrea, I'm not going to let you make it seem like Caitlin Clark was averaging 5 points a game. At the time, she was still averaging 16 points a game, which was more than a lot of other guards that made the team. So don't do that. Don't make it seem like she was averaging 5 points and this was like a handout.
The evidence was irrefutable. Every fan, every analyst, every person who watched the games could see the pattern. It became an open secret, confirmed by those inside the locker room. Fellow Indiana Fever player Sophie Cunningham admitted that opposing teams were designing entire game plans specifically to target Clark physically. It was a coordinated assault happening night after night. So, where was the WNBA? They saw the numbers. They saw the hard fouls. They had the data proving their #1 asset was being hunted. And they did nothing. They issued no stern warnings. They implemented no new rules for player safety. They handed out no meaningful suspensions to the repeat offenders. Why? Because the controversy was good for business. The hard fouls went viral. The endless debates on television and social media drove engagement. The drama, the perceived rivalry, it all sold tickets and boosted ratings. They weren't just silent partners in her abuse. They were actively profiting from it. They made a cold, calculated business decision. The health of the Caitlin Clark effect was more important than the health of Caitlin Clark. Ignoring the hate? That phrase reveals the true depth of this betrayal. It wasn't just the physical abuse on the court, it was the immense emotional burden of being simultaneously hailed as the league's messiah and treated as its villain. The most damning proof comes from the mouth of Caitlin Clark herself. She knew exactly what was happening. She felt the weight of it every single day. And in an act of incredible selflessness, she was willing to bear that weight, to sacrifice her own peace of mind for the greater good of the sport. She was willing to take it. She absorbed the hate, the cheap shots, the negativity, all so that women's basketball could finally have its moment. She sacrificed for them, and in return, they sacrificed her. The league took her loyalty and weaponized it against her. They let opponents physically punish her until her body inevitably gave out. This season-ending injury was not a surprise. It was the final, predictable chapter in a season of sustained, unmitigated abuse. It was a slow-motion breakdown the entire world saw coming. It began with a quad injury at the start of the season. Then came a left groin injury in mid-June. Her body was flashing warning lights, crying out for intervention, but the league kept the machine running, kept her on display, kept cashing the checks. They ignored the warnings until the final, catastrophic system failure on July 15th, the season-ending right groin injury. The breakdown was complete. The golden goose was broken. When Michael Jordan began his ascent, the NBA understood what they had. They saw the future and moved to protect it. They instituted rules to curb overly physical play because they knew that protecting their star was synonymous with protecting the league itself. The WNBA had its own generational talent, its own future, and they let opponents dismantle her piece by piece. They didn't just fail to act, they actively chose not to.
Cachet the WNBA elevates. Remember, it could have been even better. You messed it up. The NBA became. Even when Jordan was ascending and the league clearly saw that that was the dude and Nike was marketing the living hell out of Michael Jordan. I want to be like Mike. It was still Bird, man.
You messed it up. That is the epitaph for Caitlin Clark's rookie season. The league got its money, its ratings, its 5 years of growth in 5 weeks. But it was a deal with the devil. And the price was Caitlin Clark's health and a historic season that will now forever have an asterisk next to it. The fabricated rumor about her leaving for Europe went viral for one simple reason. It offered a justice fantasy. Fans wanted to believe in a world where she could escape the very league that was so visibly failing to protect her. The lie wasn't born out of malice, but out of a desperate desire to see her safe. The truth, however, offers no such escape. It is a tragedy of corporate greed and human cost. A season was sacrificed. A player was betrayed. And the question that should keep the league office awake at night is the one that comes next. If they could allow this to happen to Caitlin Clark, the biggest star the sport has ever seen, then who is safe? Who will they sacrifice next? We are just beginning to uncover the extent of this betrayal. And I promise you, we will not stop digging. The story they don't want you to know is only just beginning to unfold.